It's time for that video quite a few of you have asked me to make. Why exactly did I move from Texas to Wales? Why not go back to America? Why am I still here in this space? And I had this comment today, this morning actually, and I thought it's time to make the video. Here's the comment. Christopher Stain said, okay, it is interesting to learn that you are proud to be from Texas. Yeah, true. We still don't know why you have ended up in Wales, but it would seem it is not to escape your home country. After 20 years abroad, you have assimilated the Welsh way of life, and do you see Americans as foreigners? Question mark. That's a two-sided thing, and that's why I chose to make this video actually, because I need to tell the story and then go back to the beginning as to why I think the answer is what it is. Okay? So, yes, I'm in Wales. I'm from Houston, Texas, or around that region. That's quite a difference of geography, and I speak yr iaith Gymraeg, the Welsh language, which is a huge part of this channel. In fact, I'll have another Welsh lesson up in the next couple days, I'm sure. So, what happened? Why am I here? Well, it's not because of the weather, and I hope I don't have to go inside. You know what? My notes are at home. It's about to chuck down with rain. Let's go back into the house, and I'll answer your question with my notes more thoroughly for you.
First off, if you are thinking of moving to Wales permanently to become Welsh, I don't advise it. I don't advise not coming to Wales. Just come to Wales, experience it, and then think, is this something that's for me? Because I'm not the kind of person, at least, to do something halfway. I came here, became Welsh, that's a done deal. This is my country, but I had no idea what I was getting into. And for you, to answer your question about why, as a Texan, I came here and became Welsh, I need to go back to where I'm from. So Texas, as I mentioned in the last video, is a series of ecosystems. Swamps, plains, jagged canyons with bits of high desert, almost like savanna landscapes, eastern woodland. I'm from the bayou type, and this area is poor, polluted. The remains of the decaying oil industry. And I grew up in a home that was breaking apart socially. That's key to understand in what I'm about to say to you. My mother had problems. That's private, I'm not going into. My father is a war veteran with seriously abusive tendencies. Who does not see that? And the fusion of these two combined with the wreckage of neoliberal thought coming out of the Reagan-Thatcher era meant I grew up in a time and environment in which the social fabric of communities was being obliterated with no foundation underneath. It also was combined with an emerging, just barely seen at the time, left-wing radicalism that was carryover from the 1960s, especially on my father's side. that rebelled against any institution, any tradition. And so you had the fusion of this radical neoliberalism, not capitalism, but a type of capitalism. There's a distinction there. That obliterated communities, as happened here in the Welsh valleys. And my parents divorced, and I was plunged into a neglect and a poverty quite early, and violence then. But what's remarkable is that I thought this was unique to me. Only later in life did I find that these social conditions, the coupling of this hyper-Reagan Thatcher neoliberalism with 1960s social liberalism on the left and the right, working in lockstep with each other, destroyed our communities. The left wants to blame Thatcher and Reagan. The right wants to blame the, I guess, races or something, immigrants. Well, I'm an immigrant now, and that's part of why I'm answering this question. The answer is between those two. But I left home early, living on the street. And again, I thought this was uncommon. It's not. Go look at our cities.
The sad truth is, look at all these young people lost in our cities. Our families are broken. It's not capitalism which is the answer. It's that people are looking for the answer. And they often find it in some kind of identitarian revolt against our capitalistic values.
Marxism.
Different cults now are rising. Nationalisms, plural. And that's exactly what I did. Looking back, I'm from a broken home. I was lost. On the streets of our cities, the young are crying out.
Hundreds of thousands of youth have nowhere to go because the foundations of our society have been eroded. And this is relevant to a Texan moving to Wales because I began traveling around the United States. And this is relevant to, do I see Americans as a foreigner? Because I was traveling around the United States looking for some kind of answer, looking for a family, looking for something to belong to. And what I found was not one America. I campaigned with Greenpeace in the forests of Cascadia in Oregon. I walked across high desert. I traveled through Bayou Swamp. I worked in cafes in Austin to keep Austin weird. I rode through Appalachia. I worked in the skyscrapers of Chicago and saw the high plains along the Canadian border and traveled across the bridges of Tampa Bay in Florida. But in each of these places, I saw a unique culture. Not so much in the social sense, but the climate, the geography, the environment made them different to each other, to a point where I could not fully recognize them as belonging to the same nation. Southern California and Western Michigan are nothing alike. I didn't just drive through these places, I was poor and homeless. So I walked through these places, talking to homeless people in all of these places. And in all of these places, the common thread that I found was that our society was falling apart, and young people had nothing to turn to. No identity, so they were creating new identities. And I was just like them. I found Welsh.
And I latched on to a romantic struggle because I was that lost as a child. I'm Welsh now. That's what I am. But again, we have to be honest with ourselves about what this is. And there are hundreds of thousands of other children out there. You see these parades in our streets, waving the Palestinian flag, attacking Jewish people. They're falling into the same trap of absence of family in our society as I did, but in a more radicalized way. I was actually more sensible, though lost I was. People looking for something to grip onto, anything that's not. I don't know what that was. Don't fall up on me. Kids are looking for something because our society has become an empty hollow. We don't value the family anymore. It's not capitalism which is destroying us, but social liberalism and the identitarianism that's erupting out of our streets is because young people have nothing traditional at all that they belong to anymore. There's nothing left. Our children are lost.
You want to know why I ended up in Wales? I was lost. I was from a broken home, like millions upon millions of my generation, thanks to the hippies before us.
I had nowhere to go. I read a book in a library. Jan Morris, Wales, Epic Views of a Small Country, and I latched onto this romantic struggle of a people. The injustice, social justice, those key words that latch on to a young person's.
The difference between right and wrong. It's wrong that we're doing this to our kids, forcing them into a society where they have no depth of identity, and them being forced through that to go out and seek it for themselves without knowledge or wisdom to make the right choices.
That so many of our kids have nowhere to go, that so many are homeless. It's not due to capitalism that they are homeless. It's due to the broken fabric of our social fabric. Now, I'm not telling you don't come to Wales. It's beautiful. Doing Cardiff Cymraeg, I love the Welsh language. I went to the university and it's wonderful. But be aware of what you're getting into. The left-wing Welsh nationalist struggle is not the Welsh nation. And I'm not going to say that the Welsh nationalist struggle is entirely left-wing. It's not. But what we are seeing in our society at this point in history,
our wider Western society,
is that these national socialisms are blooming up through the cracks of our broken communities. And they're latching on to our young people. That's exactly what happened to me. I saw imagery painted on my conscience, and I followed it. Oh yes, I am angry.
Oh yes, I was foolish.
But I am Welsh now, and I'm not going to hate Wales. I'm not going to attack this beautiful, wonderful country. If you ask me these questions, why did I come here from Texas to Wales? I must be honest, open, and loving with you as to what happened. Let's get back to my notes.
Yes, these kids crowding through universities now waving a Palestinian flag, they're doing exactly what I was doing as a young man with Wales. I was lost, nowhere to turn to. My family was broken, the communities I come from polluted, glass-flecked, underfoot, filled with gangs and drugs, decaying refineries, abandoned warehouses and buildings. And so we turn to something to give us an identity, a sense of family, because we have none. That's what I did with Wales. Let's be honest. It is because of the ruin of our society that I latched on to another identity. And it does not mean that I am not Welsh. I live here. I married here. I went to university here. I speak both languages. This is my home. But we must be honest about how I came to this place. It was the produce of a society that has left our youth with nothing in terms of identity, traditions, spiritual health, anything. And we're seeing it across the world. Our youth are looking for identities because we've left them with no inheritance and normalized broken or single-parent families. It's the wreckage carrying over from the 20th century's radicalism into today's young people. And I, coming to Wales, am a product of that social time and situation.
Canada was a beacon of light to me.
I could get health care in Canada.
I could go to university. I had been trying to go to university in America and failed due to no money. I was not really in contact with my family. Partially my fault, but partially the fault of this society. And I began the process of adopting a Canadian dream. Maple leaf dreams I began writing. The idea of
abandoning my American clothes and becoming Canadian, and in a way, this is part of a self-hatred of the West that we see blooming through the cracks, all these broken homes of kids seeking new identities. I'm just a part of that, or I was, like so many.
self-hatred of the West that was beginning at that time in our society to manifest itself amongst the young. And I began looking for a struggle, as young people always do. They look for a struggle. I looked toward the Quebecois. I began learning French. Welsh was still there on the back burner, but I became a French learner.
Canada was a hope. It was seeing the wreckage that I came from on the South Texas coast. I wanted a more equal society, dare I say it, a fairer society, a fairer shot. I had at that time no concept of the lack of tradition in our society, the social liberalism that was slowly crumbling away the unity of our societies, which you see, frankly, big in Canada at the moment. Fortunately, I did not move there, though I love Canada, don't get me wrong. But because of the social conditions I was in, I was seeking to leave. Now, on the comment, he mentioned escape. It was not escaping Texas to Wales. No, it was wanting a fullness, wanting a wholeness, the emptiness, the crumbling away of family and values that I had seen. This is remanufactured across the West. I am not alone. Others have gone to various corners of the earth seeking an identity because they have none. The West, we are hollow and emptied out. I don't mean to be negative. We are a prosperous, free society still.
But along the way, something happened. I was en route to Canada when I met a man from Britain.
I got to fall in love in Seattle.
This relationship was honest. He asked me to marry, and I took a leap of faith into the dark. We lived in London. I knew that this Welsh language I had been learning was
Welsh was now something I could do in real time, not just, ooh, druids, Celtic warriors, something tangible.
and I began.
At this point, I went at it seriously to learn Riaith Gymraeg, Welsh. It's a beautiful language. I adore it. I had the opportunity to go to university. The experience was ragorol, excellent, supreme. I got to learn Welsh and see it yn fanwl, detailed, yn fanwl. And yet, I was the outsider, the outlier. And if you're thinking of coming here, you must understand that. How Wales, and especially the Welsh language, has kept its identity. It's not through some great effort or struggle or resilience that they have kept their culture. There is some effect from William Morgan's Bible and the religious sense, but that aside, the reason why Wales has survived at all as a country, really, it comes down to the climate. The weather is terrible. And people coming in, if you grew up in any fertile plain or area, you look at the soil of West Wales and it is awful. It's acidic. You cannot grow crops, really. And so it prevented people over many centuries from moving in and settling here. It still prevents it today. People come here, they see the poor condition of the land, and they leave. Yes, it's beautiful. There is a rugged beauty to it that is undeniable. And the layering of the hills makes it look much more magnificent and grand than it actually is. It's a deceitful beauty. It is a thing to be admired, Wales. But we must be honest about what it is.
So why have I stayed in Wales? If I see through this social justice identity that latched onto our youth, well, I love this country. It's really as simple as that. But we all need an identity to belong to, a cause, something higher, actually, rather than a cause, something to believe in. There can be no human society without faith and religion. I see that clearly now.
So, why have I stayed? Well, I do love Riaith Gymraeg, the Welsh language. I do acknowledge I have invested so much of my life already in this country. What a waste it would be to turn around and be angry at this country. I am angry, but why should I be angry at Wales when I am part of Wales? As soon as faith is gone, nationalistic identities take over as the collective mode of almost worship. I don't think anymore that a society can stand without some kind of spiritual base. Can it? What do you think?
As soon as a belief in a higher thing is gone, you see these blooming of identitarian cults.
Like we see across the West right now, gripping our youth, encouraging them to rebel against our own society, taking up various flags rather than identifying as American, Canadian, British, French. Okay, I accept Welsh, English, French. No, you get what I mean. But identities is what I mean. Splintering us into thousands of little groups that leave our society hollow and weak, instead of giving our kids a strong base through which to grow. I needed a strong base to grow from like anyone else.
Because I'm human. And so I am learning more about Judaism at the moment. Okay, I really gotta go inside now.
It's not Wales's fault either. That's the key thing to take. For those of you in other places who have sought out a new identity and found out that it's because of our society crumbling this way, we don't take out anger on these new identities and nations that we've come to. We don't respond in anger. No. We embrace where we are now, partake in our community, express a love for these places, for Wales in my case. But understand, we did do it for a rather silly reason.
Do I see Americans as foreigners? Well, the answer to that is that I don't see America as one country. I'm from Texas and the Bayou. So it's not a straightforward yes or no, do I consider you a foreigner or not?
Let's be honest about what it was. I was looking for something to belong to. I wasn't looking at what Wales was. I was looking at what I was not and hoping to be. The rain kind of got in there, and so I had to come back. But here are my Patreons. Diolch yn fawr iawn am wylio. We'll see you next time.